What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to the Warframe video. Today we're on the Hespar, which is the Giganto two-handed scythe I'm holding right now. And we're going to go over its stats, how to use it, some builds for it, the new stance it got, because it's a new weapon type, actually. And yeah, it's not as good as I was hoping it would be, but it's a gigantic scythe, so we're going to make some concessions just because it's a gigantic scythe. And I think we all want to use a gigantic scythe. Before we get into it, though, make sure you sub the channel and all that, and make sure you like the live stream channel as well. We will live later tonight, probably with some Warframe and Destiny 2. Getting ready for that new season, which there's still not a trailer out for. Alright, so the Hespar, this gigantic piece of metal I'm holding, is going to be requiring you to be a Master Rank 12 to have it. It's got a 1 attack speed, a follow-through stat of 0.4. We'll get back to that, on that, why that's one of the reasons this weapon is not as good as it should be. But 0.4 follow-through, so what that means is like after you hit the first enemy, the second enemy will take a differing amount of damage depending on what the follow-through stat is. So for example, on this one, 0.4, probably the lowest follow-through stat possible. The first enemy you hit will take full damage, the second enemy will take 40% of that damage, and then the third enemy after that will take 40% of that damage. That's the problem. This thing is bad against multiple enemies at once. It's okay against one enemy at a time, but once you start getting past like 2 or 3 enemies hit, you're doing like 20 damage on the fifth guy. So that's a thing holding this back. We get a standard combo duration of 5 seconds. We have weapon range of 2.8, so pretty good base weapon range. And as far as the damage stats here, they're pretty decent as well. We've got 24% crit chance, 2.2 multiplier, with a 28% status chance, and we've got 280 base damage, so very high base damage. You would think it would be high base damage with a gigantic scythe like this. Most of it being slash, but a lot of it also being impact. The heavy attack is the main draw of this weapon, I'd say. It has 4 slash if you hit the right part of the scythe, and it's also got 3 hits on it, which you might not hit them all with all 3 of those. So that's a lot of talking. Let's just show what you can expect out of a weapon like this. Now these guys are paused. We will have some Steel Path gameplay. But yeah, let's just start off. So I'm going to recommend you do a heavy attack build on this weapon. And I'm on Garuda right now, so you might end up seeing double damage from a passive, but yeah. So there's the heavy attack. As you can see, pretty good slash proc. But there's that's the follow-through stat and effect right there. I think that was the first guy got hit right there. Second, third, fourth, fifth. The fifth guy, look at his health bar. Didn't even move. Comparatively, the guys on the left died. So follow-through is an important stat for weapons in this game. As you can see, that guy taking 60 damage slash procs, while the guys over here are taking 5,000. So that's the main thing here, guys. Like, it's a really cool weapon. It's got some cool animations. The second, if you do 2 heavy attacks pretty quickly, the second heavy attack looks different than the first. You like spin the scythe around. I've been hearing some people saying that this weapon has a weird thing where if you hit enemies with the front blade, this one right here, it does a slash proc. If you hit them with the back blade, it has an impact proc. I don't know if I completely agree with that, but it's an interesting theory nonetheless. But the heavies definitely do have slash on them, as you can see right here. We will show the build. And yeah, you can expect some pretty big damage, at least if you're like fighting like 2 or 3 enemies at the same time. So let's just show the heavy attack build. I will show a light attack build as well, although I do not really recommend it. So here's the heavy build. Now, something to keep in mind is that I have a D polarity on here because I have a D polarity Riven usually. If you don't have a D polarity Riven, you could probably just not even form with this slot or put a V there for a different type of mod. Spring-loaded blade is good, but if you think about it, this weapon has bad follow-through stats, so increasing range isn't really as beneficial as you'd think. So taking this out for like some other mod like Glider Might, maybe even Glider Vice, it does have a pretty slow heavy attack windup, even with Killing Blow and Amalgam Organ Shatter. We're still at 0.5, and the fastest it can possibly be is 0.2. So that's something to keep in mind if you're trying to mod for this thing. So as I said, heavy attack build with Condition Overload. You could proc them up for even more damage. We didn't even do that there, and they still died in 1 hit, so it should be pretty good. And then the combos for Gale Force Dawn. We don't really have that many combos, to be honest, but we'll show what they do. Like I said, I really recommend it's a heavy attack weapon. If you just want to swing it around, here's what you can expect from combos. So here's the standing combo. You definitely want to jam some attack speed if you're doing light attacks on this. This is not a light attack build. That's standing combo. Walking around, I guess you could call this a combo. And then the hold combo. Gonna do some knockdowns, I believe. And those are the 3 combos you have available to you in the Gale Force Dawn, which drops from Thrax. All right, so that looked really slow. Let's put on a light attack build, and then we will show some fun things you can do with other frames. You know, let's even put the Riven on here too. Attack speed, critical chance, damage Grenier, minus finisher. Pretty decent, but this thing has 0.5 dispo, so it's still not going to help with that much. So yeah, standard light attack build, blood rush, sweep and wounds, crit damage range, ban the Grenier, condition overload. Like if you've been playing this game for any amount of years, you know this build is pretty much set in stone at this point. And we have a condition overload procer in the Kuva Nucor magnetic version, so we can see how that goes too. So building combo, we're not the fastest with this weapon, but let's try it out. Okay. Let's try some of these combos out. Now we're building up to 5x. And okay, so here's 7x, 8x. Let's see how these light attacks go. As you can see, a good amount of slash. Proc these next guys up. Pretty good if they're procced up, but that can be said for basically every weapon. And there's the follow through a stat in effect, giving that guy an 84 damage slash proc. Actually might have been a heat proc from the Kuva Nucor, but it wasn't looking too hot. And then here we are, since we have, I don't know if we have sacrificial, we have blood rush, and a crit chance riven, we have enough to orange crit sometimes. Not the best, but let's show some fun things you can do if you like anime and you are a nerd like me. Okay, so this looks, you know, it's a giant scythe, you know, we are making concessions to use a giant scythe. Here's what you can do to be even cooler. So you can go on whatever frame you feel like. I like Wisp for this. And you can put on the Amar's Anguish and Amar's Hatred mods to make it whenever you do a heavy attack, you will teleport up to 20 meters while heavy attacking. So Wisp is good because she can put on her speed modes to make you moving faster and attacking faster. So what you're going to do here is you're going to be the anime teleport Wisp. And we can actually even put silence on here from Banshee to make it where they're stunned. So just do this and you are teleporting around like the Grim Reaper that you know you must be. So that looks pretty cool. It's like, you know, this can be done with other weapons. It's much better with the pennant. And we'll do some weapon stat comparisons here in a little bit, but, you know, it's still killing them, you know. No CO proccing, and they're all dead, so. I've seen better. You know, I was kind of hoping it didn't have 0.4 follow-through, but it does have 0.4 follow-through, so, you know. Here's some Steel Path gameplay on Garuda. Like I said, keep my passes giving me double damage. We even got Smeetacat here. But if I'm using this Hespar in actual content, I'm going to be buffing it up. That's the way I look at it. Is I am not using this Hespar just raw, like low attack speed and all that. You're definitely going to want some attack speed buffs. Maybe even put on Berserker if you're planning to use it as your main DPS source. I would not recommend to use the Hespar as your main DPS source. But you could. Like I feel like my Kuva Nucor would kill faster than this thing, but it's a giant scythe. Like I said, we're accepting the fact it's not the best because we want to use a giant scythe. So yeah, I'm just going to go over some stats here. So the main downfalls of this weapon is the follow through, and I guess the attack speed kind of as well with the animations of that Gale Force Dawn stance. And honestly, I'm going to call it a downside too. The fact this thing looks so awesome made my expectations for it a lot higher, and it kind of just feels like Ghoulsop 2.0 right now, where it's a gigantic scythe. Why does it have 0.4 follow through? Why am I'm literally carving through them with a 280 damage scythe? Why is it like it should be full damage fall. Like every enemy I hit should be taking full damage, but instead it's just like, yeah, you're cleaving through them with a gigantic blade of death, but you know it didn't cut through them that quickly, so it's actually 0.4, 40% damage on the second guy. So comparing these stats of the Hespar to other weapons, it's actually quite similar to the Fragwar Prime stats wise, because the Fragwar Prime and hammers in general have bad follow through as well. So if we just look at right here, I have the Hespar equipped, and the Fragwar Prime has 0.4 follow through, as we see right here. So the same thing here. Every enemy after the first one's taken less and less damage by a lot. Now at least this thing has more speed than the Fragwar Prime. It doesn't have the 30 initial combo. It has a lot less crit chance. It's got less crit multiplier. Now thankfully it's a slash weapon, not an impact weapon. But the Fragwar Prime also has really high stat Rivens too. So you could potentially make it, yeah, like triple the stat Rivens, basically. You know, come on, like make the follow through stat higher. To be honest, like just comparing it to some other weapons here, higher base damage with Paracesis, so that's good. For a Tenant weapon, it's got higher base damage than the Livia. How about the Grigori? Higher. It's gonna have some of the highest base damage in the game. It's got less damage than the Architectron though, and you know here let's compare it to some heavy attack weapons. So Pennant, I'd call the Pennant better than this. Pennant also has 4 slash procs, higher crit chance, a built-in passive where you get heavy attack kill, gives you increased attack speed, and 0.7 follow through with even higher range. So use the Pennant over this, I'd say. And then, let's look at an actual not two-headed Scythe. You've got the Hate right here. Better follow through for some reason. Same range, higher crit chance, higher crit multiplier. 50 less base damage, but we have much higher Riven stats to compensate for that. So I'd say a normal Scythe is probably better than this thing, unfortunately. And yeah, I think the list just goes on, guys. It's not a top-tier weapon. It is a top-tier fashion frame weapon, though, which is why I wanted to like it so much. And as far as weapon grades for this thing, I'm going to go ahead and give it a D, a below-average mob clearing score, because of the follow-through stat. I actually probably would give the Frag War Prime an F tier on mob clearing, because you're not going to be using that as your main mob clearing weapon. And you'd think a Scythe, just cleaving through enemies, would be a great mob clearing weapon. It turns out it's not. But at least it's got good Acolyte killing. I was able to one-shot the Acolyte with 1 heavy attack in this footage. Now, of course, that might potentially be because of the double damage from Garuda's passive. But as we stated, my Kuva Nuke are probably killing these guys faster, so we're going to need some kind of buff to hold it up. So, max stats potential, C, average. It's got impact, puncture, slash. It's got no, radiation or cold or any random element like that would give you even more statuses. So, yeah, the overall grade is C. It is an average weapon, which is very painful to say. And it probably should actually be a below average weapon, but it does have really high base damage and high slash with force slash. So if you can just, if you can accept the fact that you're not going to be killing multiple enemies at once regularly, at least at their high level, it can still be a weapon you enjoy and like. Because I like it, I just want to like it more. So yeah, it's kind of immersion breaking that me cleaving through 3 enemies, the third guy is not going to actually take that much damage. You see, that Butcher right there took an 84 damage slash proc from my double damage heavy. So, and I'm just going to spoil right now, this gameplay footage has my anti-Grenier Riven on it too. So, it should be doing a lot better than it is. Also, the second heavy attack, it does not really sweep. It's kind of like an attack right in front of you. So the second heavy attack is not really good for AoE either, but it does look cool. You spin it around, shove it in their gut, and here's the Acolyte right here. We'll call it a video after this Acolyte's dead. But yeah, guys, I would say it's not really worth farming, especially because one of the parts comes from Void Armageddon, the really buggy, annoying defense mode, on a rotation C 10% drop rate. So not the best drop rates and not the best game mode. For not the best weapons. So, yeah, maybe buy it with Play if you want the mastery, or just completely skip it, which is what I'd recommend, unless you want it for fashion frame purposes. For making a Grim Reaper, Garuda, or Necros, sure, you basically need it. You probably already bought it if you're doing it for fashion frame stuff. But for as a main damage source in missions, nah, I'm going to pass it up. Either way, guys, I'll see you later tonight on the live streams, and I appreciate all the support. Peace.